We're live.
Will I?
Yeah, we're live. So we'll begin. A very good evening to everybody watching us live here today. I'm Hansika Nageshwaran, your host, and this is The Eternal Quest and Westland Publications in collaboration with Dr. Baba Saheb Ambedkar Open University, Gujarat, SNS School, Sirpur, Devyap Celestial, and Sai Business Club, presenting to you a conversation with author Gautam S. Mengle here with us today. Gautam S. Mengle has been a journalist on the crime beat for almost 11 years and counting. And during this time, he has also worked across several newspapers. He joined the Asian Age as a trainee reporter in 2008 and within 2 months was given the biggest story of the year, the 26/11 terror attacks, an experience which went a long way in shaping him as a crime reporter. It was also during this 4 year stint with the Asian Age that he worked under S. Hussein Zaidi, who was then a resident editor and went on to assist him in minor capacity in some of his books. From the Asian Age, he moved on to the Indian Express in 2012 and to the Hindu in 2015 to be part of the pilot team for its Mumbai edition. Fiction writing has also been his hobby since his teenage years. We are so excited to have you here today, sir. Welcome.
Thank
So
you.
before
I'm
we get
equally
into the
excited to be
interview,
here. Thank you for having me.
yeah. So before we get into the interview and into the questions, is there something that you would like to share with us, sir?
Oh no, just we can just jump into it because I'm kind of looking forward to answering all your questions right now. So we
I
can
am
talk
also looking
in the
forward.
question answer form.
Yeah, okay, sir. I'm also really looking forward to listen to your answers and learn so much from you. So, as we saw in your introduction, we can see that you've had a very, very huge literary journey. So, tell us more about the literary journey of yours and who was your greatest inspiration, who inspired you to take up this literary journey?
Oh, without question, my mentor, Mr. S. Hussain Zaidi, he's been an inspiration. He's been a role model. He's been a guiding light. I worked with him in Asian Age, as you just mentioned, and he's got several successful books like Dongri to Dubai and Baikala to Bangkok, Mafia Queens of Mumbai. So some of those books I played a minor role in the research, and that is when that was my first brush with writing books or the literary world, as you call it. And it was during that time that Zaidi sir started insisting that I write a book, but it was way too early in my career at that time, at least according to me, and I wanted to have some base of experience and knowledge base before I could actually put out a book with my name on it. Because I believe that when you publish a work and release it out into the world, it comes with a certain responsibility, and you cannot do it without adequate knowledge and experience. So I kept putting it off, and then the next stage was where Sir was insisting that I should write a non-fiction book because he thought it has a larger readership. But fiction writing, again, as you mentioned in your introduction, fiction writing has been a passion for me since I was in college. I used to write for our campus newspaper and then for a few websites where my short stories were published. So then for nearly 2 or 3 years, Zaidi sir and me had this disagreement about writing fiction versus writing non-fiction. And finally in 2019, 2018 actually, he agreed, and I started working on Intersections. And it was still like a long process because I had to pitch several ideas, out of which this one was picked up by the publishers and they liked it. It was sanctioned, and I was working with the Hindu at the time, so I had to take a proper permission from my superiors at work, because when you're working for a publication and then at the same time you publish a book, there's an intellectual property issue involved. So but they were kind enough to give me that permission. So then I started properly writing the book. It took around 7 to 8 months, and then the editing happened, then the cover art, then we had several discussions around the cover art and the release of the book. And then the pandemic hit right in the middle of that in 2020. So despite all those challenges, in October 2020 Intersections was released, and my dream came true.
I'm sure, sir, all your hard work is going to pay off. The book is amazing. Your book, its title, Intersections, and the front cover is very, very unique and very interesting, sir. So, how did you come up with the name Intersections, and how did you come up with the idea of the book?
The name actually was another matter of dispute, because Intersections is not a very conventional name, if you think about it. And books, like any other product, they are products, they are driven by certain commercials. So we weren't actually sure that Intersections would be a commercially viable name because of the recall value. But for me, it was the first and last title that came to my mind when I was writing the book, because if you read the book, it is a story of three people and their lives are intersecting constantly. So I wanted a title that would give out the gist of what the book is, while at the same time not giving out what the story is. And I didn't want a very filmy name for my book as well. I wanted a little higher standard than that. So Intersections is actually the story of three people. Uh, they start out by being unaware of each other in the book, but by the end of it, their paths have crossed so many times and in ways that it has influenced their lives, each other's lives, which is why Intersections.
So, as you said, sir, Intersections is a book which has three different characters who cross paths every now and again. So, my question now to you is that who is your favorite character among the three?
Oh,
Is
Uday
it
Mhatre, easy.
okay?
It's
That
Uday.
was like a spot on answer, very quick. So, that shows how much you like the character.
Yeah,
Uh,
I do, because just for the benefit of our viewers, Uday Mhatre is a policeman who is a good cop, but he is dealing with trauma and depression, and he is slipping into alcoholism. The other two characters are Chaya, who is a woman who's come back to Mumbai on a mission, a very dark and dangerous mission, and Rohit is a teenager who is in love with his teacher. Mhatre is my favorite character because I have seen hundreds of policemen on the job as a crime reporter. I will finish 13 years as a crime reporter in September, hardly a month away. And Mhatre is the amalgamation of those hundreds of cops who I have seen, who deal with their own personal demons, their traumas, their issues, their problems, and at the same time, they fight every day to do their job. So, which is why Mhatre, the amount of effort that went into creating Mhatre makes him a favorite of mine.
so, sir, like you said, you have been a crime reporter for almost like 11 years now. And so in this
13
book,
years.
oh, okay, sorry, 13 years
The
now.
11-year thing was
And
written 2 years ago when the book was coming out. So
oh,
I
okay, sir.
emailed
So
that
we've
bio to
got
my
an update
publisher
now.
2 years ago.
Okay, so 13 years. Okay, 13 years of your experience. So even though this is a fictional book, has
Mhm.
reality intertwined with fiction in this book?
Several times, several times. If you notice, I have described a lot of police procedures in the book, a lot of techniques of crime detection and crime investigation, and all of those are based on what I've seen on the job as a journalist. So it is just, I've only changed certain names and certain locations, but the incidents, the anecdotes described in my book are all completely, they are real. I've actually seen all of them happening, or I have been told about them happening. I have reported on some of them. For example, Uday Mhatre is part of a special squad which is created by the zonal DCP to investigate serious crimes, and such squads do exist in Mumbai. Mumbai police has several such squads which are formed within specific zones to investigate serious offenses. The rivalry between the city police and the crime branch, it is well documented, and any crime reporter who is barely 2 months into the profession can tell you that there is always a rivalry going on. So that is something I have borrowed from reality. uh, Call data records and analysis of cellular locations as a tool for investigation is again based on reality. So all of these are real things, but I've just used them with a little creative license for the sake of my story. That's it. So there's a very heavy influence of reality on Intersections.
Okay, sir. So your experiences have certainly played a part in the book that you have written. Also, sir, this book is set in Mumbai, which we all know to be the city of dreams. So, what kind of influence has Mumbai had on this book and has had on your life?
The thing I love about Mumbai is that it has scope for so many stories. It can hold or it can accommodate hundreds of thousands of stories, and you still won't run out of locations to set your story in. What I've shown in intersections is only a small part of Mumbai. I've tried to bring some diversity in terms of suburbs or locations, but that still I think has not done justice to just how diverse the city is. You can find a new story every day around every corner of the city, and you can make a career out of writing about Mumbai. So that is one. Secondly, the crimes in Mumbai and the trends in crimes. And see, Mumbai right now is on the cusp of change because it used to be the hotbed of the criminal underworld at one point of time. We've all heard of names like Daud Ibrahim Kaskar, Chota Rajan, Arun Gowli, who were the most wanted criminals of their time. Their influence is declining. It is not gone. It is there. It is declining. And there are sporadic but frequent attempts to take over that vacant seat of power in the criminal world by several small gangs who try to become bigger than they already are. And there is a constant battle between the police establishment and these criminals. At the same time, it is the financial capital, which means there is immense scope for economic offenses, for cheating, for frauds, for banking frauds, for stock market frauds. And we also have cybercrime, which is like the crime of the future, because as technology is advancing, we are finding newer ways to cheat people with the use of the internet. Mumbai, I think, is the only city which has 5 cyber police stations right now for Mumbai alone. So, as a journalist, I have had the privilege of reporting all these things from up close. In fact, right now, me and Zaidi sir, we are heading a news website called SciSpy India, where we only report cybercrime and cybersecurity, but in the very simple terms, so that everybody can understand the basics of cybercrime. So, all of these things make Mumbai a very unique city, and that is why it also holds scope for, like I said, hundreds of thousands of stories that can be told. So that is how Mumbai has impacted my story writing.
So certainly, sir, by what you're saying, I can understand that Mumbai, the name for Mumbai, the city of dreams, is certainly apt. And also, I want to say the thing that you're doing for cybercrime online is actually something that's very appreciable because in today's world, if we want a change, we have to educate people. And I'm really appreciating you for doing such a thing. It's so awesome. And in the book, sir, we can notice that the narrative style of the book, as it drives us into action and thriller, we can see similar stuff to Dan Brown. So, what do you think about it? Do you think that crime novels usually carry a similar narrative
Thank you so
style?
much. Mhm. Every genre of within itself in novels, whether you want it to be or not. Same goes with psychological thrillers. Same goes with every kind of book. Because to describe a particular premise or to set up a premise, there will be similarities. Having said that, you telling me that my narrative style is similar to Dan Brown is news to me because I hadn't aimed for that, honestly. What I had aimed for is the style of 2 writers whom I admire a lot. One is Peter James, because Peter James, in every novel that he writes, he has 2 or 3 different storylines going on parallelly, which later come together. And he leaves you guessing about how these storylines are connected. So that is something I try to do with intersections. That's the major influence on my book. My second big influence is Michael Connelly. Michael Connelly is himself a crime reporter based in the US who turned into a novelist, and he has written a very successful series of novels about a Los Angeles Police Department homicide detective called Harry Bosch, which was also made into a series. It's available on Amazon Prime, and it's one of the better made crime based web series, in my opinion. I love it a lot. So, what I've tried to do with Uday Mhatre is something that Connolly has done with Harry Bosch. So, these two were the main conscious influences when I was writing. And the challenge was to try and imitate them without imitating them too much, if you get what I'm saying. So I hope I have been able to achieve that.
I'm sure, so the book is amazing. So usually we categorize a book into three broad aspects. Its story, the story itself, the plot, and the characterization that the story has. So what do you think? What, according to you, is the most important part of the novel that you've written?
I wouldn't want to make a sweeping statement saying this is one aspect which is always important because it works differently for different people. But for me, while writing, the story comes first. Simply because I have observed that when I get the story right, when I have a beginning, middle, and end sorted out in my mind, is when fleshing out the plot is easier and then making the characters is easier. Because I know this is the story in which those characters are going to exist. So I take a lot of time building the story first, and then I turn to everything else. So for me, the story is important.
Also, sir, writing a book is not an easy task. It takes so much determination, perseverance, and consistency. So, I just want to ask about, like, did you have writer's block? And if you did, how did you overcome it? Because writer's block is something that just scares so many young aspiring authors today. So, if you had it, how did you overcome it?
Well, I didn't honestly have writer's block. I didn't suffer from writer's block while writing Intersections, but I have had my share of moments where, while writing, say, a short story or while working on some other creative project, I have faced writer's block. And like you said, it is something that plagues almost every writer at some point of the other. So that is a risk we all have to take when we start writing. And I know about a lot of writer friends of mine whose projects have been sanctioned and commissioned and yet got delayed because they had horrible writer's block. What works for me is that I take a complete break from writing for 2 or 3 days. And then I come back to it and I don't start writing again. So far, and somewhere from the middle of whatever I've written, I get and after that, you just have to keep going on that little road that just have to keep putting one foot in front of the other, and it takes time, but soon you're out of the writer's block and you're writing again. Basically, while writing Intersections, I did not suffer from writer's block, fortunately, because I was, like I said, I was employed with the Hindu at the time, and I was juggling a full-time job and writing this novel on a deadline. So I consider myself very lucky that there was no writer's block during that time. It would have delayed the publication of the book, but that did not happen, fortunately.
So, I'm sure never giving up is the solution to writer's block. From what you've said, I've learned one new thing today. So also, sir,
You cannot, I don't think any writer can afford to give up.
yeah, yeah, that's right.
I'm saying I don't think any writer can afford to completely give up. There will always be writer's block. Like I said, it's a risk we all live with as writers. But I don't think anybody actually gives up on something. They may take a break, they may take extra time, but if you give up the story which you have created at the cost of your sleep and your peace of mind, that story suffers. So any good writer who actually loves his creations cannot afford to give up because he's got writer's block. we deal with it, and we come back to it.
Yes, sir. Well said. So recent times we've seen a lot of books being adapted into films. So if your book is also adapted into a film, who would you want the cast to be?
Oh, that is a tough one. That is a tough one because I honestly haven't actually thought about that. I'm not. I'm very serious about this. The cast part of it, I really had not thought about. But I'm not sure if having somebody with a heavy star power would be a good idea, because sometimes the star cast can end up overshadowing the story. And I do believe that the strength of Intersections lies in its story. So that is only the only concern I have. And as for casting, there are people in the industry who do this for a living. So I will just leave it to them to uh, decide who they should cast in it. Although if they are willing to give me a role, I'd be very happy to play it.
Yeah. I'm sure, sir, you will get a role. But sir, also I know that you are very passionate about this book, and that you must have read it at least once, and I'm sure you spent so much of your time writing this book. So if you have a few favorite lines from the book, can you please read it out for us?
I have a lot of favorite lines, but I'll read out the ones that I like the most.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so I'll read out a passage first, and then we'll come to my favorite lines. Because see, the thing is that I've already read out one passage in the last session I had, and I don't want to repeat that. It wouldn't be fair to
Yes,
either them or to this platform. So I'm going to read a different passage first, and then we'll come to my favorite lines. Is that okay?
yes, sir. Yes, sir. Sure. Yes, sir. Sure.
Great, thank you. Interrogations are broadly classified into two categories. The first one is when the suspect is thrown into a room and allowed to sweat for an hour or more before the cops, with their meanest expressions, barge in and start hurling questions and abuse at the same time. This method works wonders for those who are inside a police lockup for the first time. First the waiting, then the verbal onslaught, with more than the occasional blow or slap thrown in, works wonders in extracting a confession. For obvious reasons, this was not going to work with Gurdeep Singh. So Gurdeep Singh is a suspect they have picked up for interrogation. The second method is calmer, although it does come with its own moments, where a slap is thrown in because the suspect refuses to see sense. It is mostly reserved for history cheaters who, having faced the system several times, know how it works and also know there are a few ways to beat it. Hollywood has for long portrayed the second kind of interrogation, where the cops calmly walk into a closed interrogation room with a mirrored wall, laying the suspect's already long record in front of him and telling him to cooperate or get thrown into a supermax facility. While the Indian police infrastructure has not yet been able to afford sleek interrogation rooms with mirrored walls, going instead for the innermost room of the police station or unit, the method is largely the same. A surprising number of suspects are willing to calmly answer questions put to them by the police, which is another thing that the movies always get wrong, and hash out their options to get out of the situation with as little damage as possible. Singh, having been arrested several times in the past and convicted for smuggling twice, was well aware of where he stood, which is why when Patankar and Mhatre walked into the room, he merely shifted his position on the cold, hard floor on which they had made him sit and which was decidedly uncomfortable. So I love this passage because it is an accurate representation of what an interrogation looks like, and it is very different from what we see in the movies or on TV. And one big purpose behind writing intersections is that I have tried to debunk or bust a few myths about policing that are shown in popular culture. So, which is why I like this one a lot. Coming to my favorite lines, one of my most favorite lines in Intersection is hindsight is a luxury afforded to those in the sidelines. That is a line that one cop says to another regarding some actions he's taken in the middle of an operation. And that line was actually said by the late IPS officer Himanshu Roy. He used to be Joint Commissioner of Crime Branch and Joint Commissioner Law and Order in Mumbai. And he's helped me a lot when I was a young trainee reporter. So he's one of the officers who I owe a lot to, because these few officers, despite me being a reporter and technically being on the other side of the fence, they have guided me and taught me a lot. So I know that he's no more now. Unfortunately, he's no longer with us. But if Roy sir were with us, he would be very happy for me to see my novel coming out. And this line was my silent tribute for Roy sir, which is why that line is my favorite line in the book.
May his soul rest in peace, sir. Such an amazing human.
I
So,
would also just
sir,
cut in here for a second and apologize for the light, because I've had a power cut at my house just as the interview began. So, which is why my light is a bit dark.
oh, it's okay, sir. You look good only, even without the light.
Thank
Uh,
you.
uh, so you've had a huge transition from being a crime reporter to a writer. What was the most surprising thing that you learned in this transition?
That I can write a book was surprising, because I've always written short stories, which I have never shown to a lot of people. But uh, there are moments when, after writing the entire manuscript, when you are going through it to check for errors, you discover certain parts of it. You discover certain passages or scenes that you've written, and you stop and you wonder, oh, I wrote this, really? Because no, it happens. It happens a lot, because in the heat of the moment, you write something and you don't stop to review it because you want to write further, and you just go ahead. But when you are reviewing it, you are surprised at yourself, and that can work both ways. It can be a pleasant surprise or an unpleasant surprise, saying, wait, I wrote this is rubbish. And then you change something. Or you'll be like, oh, I wrote this, not bad, I can do this. So this is something that I think every writer discovers about himself while writing a book, particularly a book, because a short story has a limited word limit and a limited scope for this. But when you write a book, because you have to hold the reader's interest for that particular period of time, for a longer period of time, and because it is not just your friends and family who's going to read it, it's going to be some stranger on the other side of the country, maybe the other side of the world. The pressure is more, and which is why when you are reviewing your own work and you come across these instances where you've written something that really gels well with the entire narrative, you take that moment to stop and pat yourself on the back, saying, okay, not bad, I wrote this. So that was the first surprise. The second was when the publisher actually accepts your manuscript, because a recurring nightmare that every writer has is that it's going to come back with an email saying, this is rubbish, we don't want it. But by God's grace, that did not happen. And then the third such moment in my journey is when I actually got the printed copy in my hands. And that is when it sinks inside your head that it's really happening. In a few days, this copy is going to be out there in the bookstores, and people who go to Amazon and search for latest crime thrillers, they're going to see this book and maybe buy it and read it and leave reviews over there. And you have no idea what the reviews are going to be like. So, those are the moments which really have an impact on you as a writer.
So, sir, now that your book Intersections is out, published, and doing well, what are your
Mhm.
future plans as a writer, sir?
So I am working on a few ideas. I will continue to write fiction. I'm not sure if I'll ever write a non-fiction book, because I write non-fiction for a living. I'm a journalist. I am still primarily a journalist. So I write non-fiction on a daily basis as a source of my livelihood. So there are a couple of ideas I'm working on. And after your first book, you have to wait for a certain period of time before you start pitching your next book to publishers, because for a lot of reasons, to see how the first book is doing, to take stock of all the lessons you've learned and not repeat the same mistakes. There are a lot of aspects involved to that. So the dilemma I am facing right now is that do I go back to the universe I have created and write a story with these same characters? Uday Mhatre, Patankar, all of these people, it's a ready universe I have at my disposal, and I just have to write a fresh story. But that might also be laziness. It might also be me slipping back to my comfort zone to just take what's already there and add something to it. And uh, I would really like a new challenge. I would like a fresh challenge, a completely different plot, a completely different concept, a completely different universe to create. So, what I might do is write a different story for my second book and then come back to the Uday Mhatre universe for my third book. Because I really would love it if Uday Mhatre becomes the next Harry Bosch or the next Jack Reacher or the next Gabriel Allen. But it remains to be seen. It is a discussion I need to have with my publisher at the right moment and see how it goes.
We will be looking forward to both, sir, a continuation of this book and a fresh new book.
Okay, great. I
So,
have at
sir,
least
as
one confirmed for you.
yes, sir, sure. Yeah, you have me. So, sir, as we've already said, you've been a journalist for 13 years now. What was your most favorite moment as a journalist?
There can't just be one favorite moment, because when you are doing something that you love for a living, there are low points in every career, but there are a lot of high points, a lot of moments which you will cherish close to your heart for the rest of your life. And I've had those moments. Like when the first time when my story appeared on the front page, uh, when I was just a trainee, and that was a great moment. I was Because other people, people have this habit of reading mostly the front page, and not everyone goes to the inside pages. So there were people calling up my boss saying, "Who is Gautam Mingle? I read his story today. It's a fantastic story." That was one because it was a story about a prison break where prisoners actually took advantage of a power cut in the prison to jump over the wall, and that prison had been requesting a separate source of electricity for the last several years, which they had not got, and finally this happened. So I was the only one who was lucky enough to have that particular angle in the news article, saying they took advantage of a power cut. And a lot of people, for the next 2 years, when I used to go out on the field and I used to meet fellow reporters, they would be like, "Oh, you're the same person who wrote about the power cut in the prison." So having that kind of recall value is it's a very good feeling at the beginning of your career. And that same story, by the way, was picked up in the state assembly in the coming year. And because of my article, the prison got generators and electric lamps. So it's an impact which you don't see happening often in your career. That would be one of the very first high points of my career. There was also the time when I was able to help reunite a teenager who had run away from home. I was able to reunite him with his parents. So, because he had run away from Ghaziabad and he had come to Bombay, and his family got in touch with me through one of my friends, and then I spoke to crime branch officers, and the crime branch, within a single day, they traced the boy and they took him into custody before anything bad could happen to him. So it was a good feeling to be able to do some good apart from just writing articles and seeing your name in the papers. So as a journalist, you get these very few opportunities to actually help someone. I mean, you can sit here and you can tell yourself that because I write these articles, it is affecting so many people. But the truth is that there are very few moments in your career where you actually get to help someone in the true sense of the word. And that is when you are faced with your true test, if I may call it that. The test is how you act when you're in a position to help someone. If you take that opportunity and you don't think about your own reputation first, or you don't think about, oh, this would make a great story to write, and instead focus on helping those in need, that is something that will stay with you your entire life. A couple of weeks ago, this man had put out on Twitter that he wants to hurt himself because he is depressed. Somebody tagged me in those tweets, and we found out he is from Kerala, but he is in Bombay currently, and we had no idea where in Bombay. Now, because I had contact numbers of policemen, because I have been on the crime beat, I was able to immediately alert them saying this man is in Dadar. That's all we know. We have no idea where he is. We will keep talking to him on Twitter and Instagram, and we'll keep relaying information to you. The police said, whatever you get, just pass on to me, and I will personally make sure he is safe. After an entire night of efforts, he finally revealed the name of the hotel where he was staying. I relayed the name of the hotel to the inspector I was in touch with. That man rushed there, and within half an hour, he took the boy into custody. And there was a huge knife in his possession, and he was fully prepared to harm himself. But uh, whatever the case, a life was saved, and you can never forget something like that. So these moments, more than the articles I write, these are the moments that I will always cherish throughout my life. So these are my favorite moments.
You've done some really, really amazing things there.
Oh, I've just
Uh,
been lucky.
yes, but still, I mean, no, a lot of people, even if they were in your position, they might have not done it. But since you've taken your time out of your work and done such wonderful things, you are certainly such an inspiration to all of us watching you here today. Uh,
Thank you. That's very kind of you, Hansika. But I hope anybody and everybody in my position takes this opportunity, because there is nothing more important than helping someone who's in need. It might not be as extreme as saving a life. It could be anything. A lot of my journalist friends have really helped people during the pandemic, people who were not getting beds in hospitals, people who were not getting oxygen cylinders, people who were not getting injections for COVID-19 patients. A lot of my journalist friends have gone out of their way to help these people in the last 1.5 years. And these are the people that I hold as my role models, because these people don't think about an article or a story first. They think about other people first. And nothing can be better than that, in my opinion.
yes, sir. So many aspiring writers will be watching us here today. So, from your journey, from your experience, is there something that you've learned and you would like to share to the aspiring writers here today? Any tips or tricks?
Oh, I would say start writing. Just start writing first. Because unless you write regularly and consistently, you will not know whether you have it in you, whether you can write a story long enough to be a book. You will not know if you have the discipline and the consistency to sustain such a long term project. A lot of things you learn about yourself when you keep writing, and it also gives you a confidence to actually go out and pitch your book to publishers. It is a long journey. I was lucky because I had Mr. Zaidi guiding me every step of the way. Not everybody has that kind of inside man, I would say. But there is a huge market for good stories right now, and not just fiction, even non-fiction. I have known about non-fiction books which have gone for reprint within the first 3 months of publication, because people love the concept. Pick a concept which you want to write about, and then, you like it or not, it's a commercial world, so you have to make it commercially viable. By that I mean, you just have to make sure it grabs the reader's interests, as opposed to the 10 other books on the same subject already available in the market. And that is something, that is a skill you'll develop only if you keep writing and keep developing your concept. Work on it, keep working on it. It's a long process, only because unless you invest that kind of time and energy, you will never actually go ahead with your ambitions. Develop a good synopsis, develop a good concept note for the idea you have, and start emailing it to publishing houses, and keep emailing till you get a reply. Have a thick skin, be shameless, keep pitching it. And before you know it, suddenly you get an email one day saying that we like this idea and we would like to discuss that. That gives you a deadline. They will sign a contract with you saying you have to give this book within 12 months. Once you have that, you have to respect the deadline. Every writer, if he gets the gift of being published, it comes at the cost of respecting a deadline. Do that, and publishers have an entire editing team which is very helpful. They will guide you through the rest of the process. So don't sit and worry about who will edit that, what if I make mistakes. Everybody make mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes. That is what makes us human beings. Mistakes are a given. That is why publishers employ full-time editors and pay them salaries to edit your mistakes. Don't worry about that. Worry only about doing full justice to the idea you have in your head, and keep writing and never stop writing. That is the only piece of advice I have.
Well said, sir. I'm sure a lot of people would have learned so much from what you just said. So now we're getting into the most fun part of our interview today. We're getting into the rapid fire round. So I'm just going to be quickly pitching questions at you, and you're going to quickly answer those questions for me, sir. So can we start?
Okay, let's do this.
Yes. So what is your favorite book, sir?
Affliction by Russell Banks.
Okay. So your favorite author, sir?
Michael Connelly.
Okay. So your favorite tourist destination?
Kodaikanal.
That's an amazing choice. So what's your favorite cuisine, sir?
Anything which my mother makes.
That's such a wonderful answer. So what do you prefer, sir? Outdoor or indoor sports?
Oh, I'm not a sport. Hello.
Which one do you prefer, sir? Outdoor or indoor sports?
Can you hear me? Is my voice coming through? Hello.
Yes, sir. You're audible.
I was saying I'm not a sports person at all. I have never had any interest in sports throughout my life.
Okay.
So wrong question. I don't even watch cricket, and cricket is like a patriotic duty for so many Indians, but I don't even watch cricket. So.
Okay, sir. So that's one thing common in between us. I have no idea as to with sports and cricket and all that stuff. So tell us about your hobbies, sir.
I love to cook, I love to write, and I love to read. The top three
Okay,
hobbies
sir.
are this: reading, writing, cooking.
Okay. So if you have to write an autobiography about yourself, what will you title the book as?
Oh, I haven't thought about that actually. That's a tough one. But no regrets.
That's really good, sir. So with that question, we're coming to the end of today's interview. Oh, we have an audience question right here. What is the most interesting thing about being a crime reporter?
Well, everything. There is nothing not interesting about being a crime reporter. But I mean, I'm sure Sridevi is expecting a more specific answer than that. So, see, the thing is that what I've discovered over the last 13 years is that anybody is capable of committing a crime. It is a very basic instinct inside people, which some people are able to suppress and some people are not. So, in a way, crime reporting is like studying the psychology of human beings. It's a study in human behavior. And I think that is the most interesting part of my job, that I get to see so many diverse personalities as part of my job. It is very educating. It, it teaches you a lot. That I think for me is the most interesting thing about being a crime reporter.
So that's an amazing answer, sir. I'm sure being a crime reporter with so many new things coming at you every day, that will be a hard and an interesting job.
Oh, it is. It is. It is difficult for sure, but it is also very interesting. And see, once you, it's an acquired taste, like people say. Once you get the hang of it, you get addicted to it. Then you cannot let go of it. I like there are so many people who ask me, "Are you still doing crime reporting?" I am saying I say there is no still about it. There's an always about it, because as long as I keep doing it, there are still 13 years down the line, I learn something new about policing or about crime detection, about investigation, about the law, about various. There are so many laws which we are not aware of. There are so many legal concepts we are not aware of. Did you know that application of mind is a legal concept? You actually have to prove in a court of law that you have applied your mind to a certain
Oh,
proposal before passing it. Application of mind is a legal term.
that's the
These are
first time
things you
hearing
learn.
of it. So,
Exactly. I learned about it for the first time some 3 or 4 years ago. I was flabbergasted. I'm like, isn't it a given that a policeman will apply his mind? And the officer who told me was like, no, you have to prove it. And to prove it, you have to go through a very tedious process. So these are things which you don't realize exist around you in an ecosystem that revolves around the policing establishment and the criminal underworld and the civilians who are affected by policing and by crime. And you learn these things only on the job. So I feel very privileged when I learn these little tidbits of information, and I'm like, wow, my mind is blown.
so with that, we come to the end of today's interview, sir. If there's any last words you'd like to share with us, please go ahead. Go ahead.
I'm just thankful to the Eternal Quest and to you, Hansika, for this very interesting interview. I am quite sorry that it's over so soon, but we have to respect time and the time limitations. It was very nice. It was a genuine pleasure chatting with you, and I wish you all the best for your future endeavors. And maybe we'll once again be in a similar conversation where you are on this side and I am interviewing you after your book comes out.
Sure, sir, and thank you so much for your wishes. We were really, really happy to have you here, and we've learned so much from today's interview. I'm sure I have learned so much, and all of our viewers would also have learned so much. And
Thank
your
you so
book,
much.
Intersections, I'm sure everybody is going to go read it now. It's just so
Please read
interesting.
it.
I'm sure everybody is going to read it. Yeah, that's there. Um, so again, sir, we are really, really thankful
And
that
if
you are here with us.
yeah, and if anybody has any questions they want to ask me, I am all over social media. I am there on Twitter. I am on Instagram. I am on Facebook. You can just drop me a line anywhere, and I will do my best to answer your doubts and help you out in any way I can.
Yes, sir, sure. So even if the people who are watching us, if they would want to contact you and ask you questions, I'm sure they will do through your social media.
Yes,
So
please.
thank you for the wonderful conversation that we had today, sir.
Thank
We
you so
are
much, Hansika.
really, yeah, sir. So everybody that's watching us here today, we have come to the end of today's interview, and for watching us, being here, and supporting us, we're really thankful for that. So tomorrow, so very soon, we will see you with another session here with another author. So thank you so much for watching, and goodbye.